Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Trust the Process, the podcast. Today we have another guest episode. So today, my guest is Jordan. He's the CEO and founder of HatchPath, which is kind of like an online coaching platform. And we're kind of just here to talk and have a conversation about the power of positive thinking and nurturing a positive mindset, what kind of led him to create HatchPath, and how coaching can actually be really life-changing for you, even if you don't actually know it yet. So welcome, Jordan, to the podcast. I'll just give you the floor to kind of introduce yourself, what you're about, and yeah.
Well, thank you, Claudia. I really appreciate the intro. And yeah, totally. Today is all about positive mindset and what that means in a space where we're coming out of COVID. We have a lot of new opportunities. We may be going into an economic depression, but, some great things have always been built in down times. And I had a journey just like everybody else has a journey. You may be still in your journey, but to overcome that negative mindset has been my mission, and the things that I do daily are kind of that battle with that inner voice and beating it. So yeah, I'm here today to talk about positive mindset. I am the CEO and founder of HatchPath, as you said, which is a coaching
Mm.
marketplace. We connect clients and coaches. And I truly believe that you don't have to do it all yourself. And for me, there was always that person in my corner that had my back, that was able to give me a plan. I call it the blueprint, and help me succeed. So if you're struggling, if you're wanting to be better than you are right now, then enlist the help of someone that has done what you want to do. And that person is a coach, and you can find them on HatchPath.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. I guess the first thing that I want to ask and just kind of get straight into is, what have you always had this way of thinking, like knowing that having a positive mindset is not something that just comes naturally to all of us? I think as human beings, we're actually quite wired to think negatively, and that's what creates that conditioning and that pattern in our mind. So what was it that prompted you to realize, okay, well, maybe you've always been like that, but maybe, okay, I
No,
needed to
yeah.
make a change and I need to actually put effort into this. It's not something that's just going to come to me. It needs to come from me.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to like creating my panel. I read the book Think and Grow Rich, and I think I've read it a ton of times now. And one of the things the author talks about is creating an imaginary panel of people you aspire to be like.
Hmm.
So every night before bed, I set up my panel. My panel includes Tony Robbins, Rob Dyrdek, Drake, Russ, and basically like 15 to 20 other people. And I remember why I have them in my panel. So for Tony Robbins, it's charisma, it's overcoming obstacles, it's helping others. For Rob Dyrdek, it's persistence, easy energy, again, charisma. So I have this imaginary panel of real people who I intend to be like. And the one thing they all had in common is a positive outlook. So when I was going through my journey, which was a battle with a chronic illness, which was Lyme disease, and I also snapped my neck and had a brain injury, was not that it was impossible to deal with the pain, but it was impossible to deal with that voice in my head. And there was
Mm.
comfort in becoming the biggest victim. And that's a triggering word for a lot of people. It should be.
Yeah.
And what happened is that I would consistently compare myself to other people in a negative light. I would
Mm.
want to say that, no, my doctor said I was the worst patient they'd ever seen, or no, my blood panels are the worst, or like, no, I had the worst test result.
Yeah.
And it was like a race to the bottom, because that was the only route that I could see. And the positive outlook thing didn't come until years into being sick and unwell. I was driving people away. I was a consistently
Mm.
negative person when I was sick. I think I was probably the most negative person I've ever been around in my life. I
Mm.
was depressed, but when you're down, you want other people to be down. Misery
Yeah.
loves company, right? So
Mm.
it was a really tough cycle to break out of, but positivity is looked at in a negative light. So I never portray false positivity. False positivity is saying everything's okay. It's
Yeah.
not. What I do is I say everything sucks, but I'm going to enjoy the ride and get through it. So
Yeah.
when I was sick, I wasn't lying to myself and saying, oh, this is okay, I'm healthy, I'm happy. Because
Hmm.
when we use affirmations like that, our brain goes, you're a liar. That's a lie. I don't
Yeah.
believe you. That's not right. So what I did was I said, this road is tough. I can choose to be angry and dwell in it and try to get attention from, the victim standpoint,
Mm,
or I can choose to have a different outlook, a positive
yeah,
outlook. So, yeah, and now my journey is different. I choose to be uncomfortable every
yeah,
day instead of comfortable.
yeah. I can definitely relate to that kind of the race to the bottom, like you said, because in my experience with like having had like eating disorders and being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and things like that, I felt I very much clung on to that as an like identification. And I just, while it did have its place and, it was a good thing to have these diagnoses and things like that, it very much like I almost wanted it to become my identity. And I was like, that is me. And I'm going to be the most borderline person you've ever seen. And I'm going to have the worst eating habits and it's like, it's, I think it's really, I think when you're in that cycle, there's only, you kind of have to hit the bottom in order to be like, okay, there's literally no further that I can go, and I have to start like trying to find a way out. So I can empathize with that to some degree. um
Yeah,
and I think it kind of also comes into what you said about this victim mentality, and I think it's, like you said, is triggering for a lot of people, that word, and it should be. But I think, I don't know, and I'd love to get your perspective on this as well. Like when we cling on to that victim mentality so much, we really deny ourselves from accessing our true potential or any morsel of it. And I think it's hard for sometimes for people to see when they're really in the thick of it, to just look and see, okay, but how am I going to see my potential? You can't just tell someone who's feeling like that, yeah, your potential is so vast and so open and you can do anything. It's hard for them to even, to see it. But I guess,
yeah,
yeah, like, so I'd love to know your perspective on that, or like maybe what kind of advice or things that you did to kind of
sure.
start to get into that and to make it a habit, and to that ultimately got you to where you are now.
Yeah, totally. So a victim always needs a victimizer, and the victimizer doesn't always know that they're the victimizer. So when I was sick, my parents would always say, "I'm so sorry for your situation," or my friends and family would give me so much attention because I was sick. And then I met
Mm,
Lauren, who's my wife now, and she never did that.
mm,
She was like, "Well, then stop doing this," or "If you're sick, then take the time to rest."
yeah.
It was never, padding the injury. It was never saying, "Oh, poor you," because
Mm,
if you're a victim, you need someone to fuel that fire. And,
yeah.
the most natural response from a human being to another is to coddle them. So if you're a victim, just cut off your victimizers. And it's, it's an easy thing to say, harder to do. But when you're looking for help, are you truly looking for help? Are you looking for coddling? Are
Mm,
you looking for, oh, poor you, or the why me mentality? Is it creeping in?
mm,
And then on the other side of the equation, if you are the victimizer or the person who is dealing with someone who's struggling, who just looks for the coddling, maybe take a step back and say, am I helping them? Is this
yeah.
coddling doing good or bad? And to see if if they came to you and say, oh, I'm so struggling today, my life sucks, XYZ, maybe instead of saying, oh, poor you could say, okay, how can we deal with this?
Mm,
What is the next step? And putting an action in place, because the only way you overcome an obstacle is with action, and it's
mm,
consistent action. One of the biggest lessons I learned is indecision is a decision, and it's the
mm,
worst decision you can make. Every decision is the right decision because it leads to something. So
yeah.
you get a result from an action, and that is always a result, whether it's good or bad. And the great thing about good is you can keep going, and the even better thing about bad is it forces you back to good.
Mm,
So if you make a decision and you think it's the wrong one, now you don't know, now you know not to go that way.
exactly. Yeah.
So, a lot of sick people, a lot of people with chronic illness, a lot of people with injuries are risk averse, and they're struggling with indecision.
Hmm.
So the thing I say to them is just take a step every single day towards a goal, and set a goal. Set a lofty goal. I never thought that I'd be healthy enough to be without pain, and
Yeah.
now I'm way beyond that. And I should have set my goals higher. And now my goals are astronomical. So set your
Mm,
goals to make you inspired, because if you set a goal that sucks, how hard are you going to work to achieve that? Not very hard.
yeah,
But if you
definitely.
set a goal that inspires you, your effort's going to change.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it is also like a question of what do you believe you're capable of, like truly, truly. Because again, when you're in that kind of situation, your mind's obviously not going to want to kind of reach for the seemingly impossible. But it's like, what do I actually think I'm capable of? What do I know I'm capable of? Like, what do the people who love me that are around me tell me I'm capable of? And then just
Hmm.
there's no harm in setting that, because even if your mind is going to say, oh, you're never going to achieve that, it's like you can validate that and say, okay, well, we can just set it anyway then. Like there's no harm. And then I think sometimes that planting of that seed is the catalyst to be like, oh, I just needed that. And maybe I can actually get there, you know?
Yeah. And I think that you can start that way, but you need an undying belief because
Mm,
every single day there's going to be an opportunity for you to quit.
yeah,
And for me, I use my cold plunge at 4 a.m. as my deterrent to quitting. But if you quit, it's over. Anytime you quit.
yeah,
If you're on day 100 or day 2 and you decide not to do something, you've let that kind of enter into your subconscious mind and
mm,
think it's okay for me not to do something.
mm,
So, I think there's a difference between listening to your body and listening to a subconscious voice. Like
mm,
if you're sick and tired consistently, and one day you're just completely out of it, sure, that's your body. But if it's just something telling you like you've worked hard enough, you don't need to do X, Y, Z today,
yeah,
that's your subconscious mind. You need to shut that up. You need to
mm,
go and do whatever it is that your mind's telling you not to do, because then it's going to feel amazing. It's
yeah,
not a punishment to do it. It's actually a reward,
yeah,
because the endorphins and the chemicals you release by beating your mind are
yeah.
10 times better than sitting on the couch and saying, I can do this another time.
That's so true. Yeah. I think it's kind of like is kind of like a fine line that you toe, isn't it? Because I feel like, especially in this kind of wellness world and the world of well-being and things, a lot of the time there's this focus on like listen to your body, which is obviously something that we should all be aspiring to. But I think the problem is a lot of the time, if you're spreading this message of just listen to your body, and you don't explain what that actually means, a lot of the people that you're communicating that to don't actually have a deep connection with their body because they've gone so long being disconnected from it. And like you said, being entangled by that subconscious voice, and what
Hmm.
they think is intuitive might actually not be. And they're kind of missing their body's cues. And I think that's why,
Absolutely.
and that's another reason why, like coming back to coaching, why that's so powerful, because whatever capacity you work with a coach in, you're going to find a way to connect back to that inner voice and connect back to that intuition and be like, oh, okay,
Absolutely.
maybe listening to my body one day does mean, just like curling up on the sofa and watching a film with popcorn at night. But if that happens the next night and the next night and the next night, is that really listening to my body? And if you're going to do that every day for the rest of your life, how's that going to look in the long run? It's not
Yeah,
going to be healthy. It's not going to look like the life that you want
totally.
to live.
Totally. And our bodies never want anything unhealthy. So the
Mm,
excuse of listening to your body to do something unhealthy is actually always going to be your subconscious mind. If your
yeah.
body wanted to do something healthy, it'd be like go to sleep, meditate,
So yeah.
eat something healthy, eat a fruit, eat a
Yeah.
vegetable. Whereas I see a lot that, go grab the ice cream and the donuts and binge watch your favorite show. It's time to listen to your body. Your body does not want that. Your
Mm,
body actually hates that. So
yeah.
I saw something on Instagram the other day. It was like something about Mondays, like bare minimum Mondays, and
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
it was actually crazy to me. I was like, people believe that they should do the bare minimum.
Mm,
What value are you deriving from that? And to me, it was just kind of like a slap in the face to wellness, because
yeah.
wellness has taken a whole other term, and wellness has become laziness.
Mm,
And the only way that we are going to become healthy is to go through a struggle. And
mm,
if you take the vision or the view that all of life is a struggle and you choose to make it harder, your
mm,
life becomes so blessed and so incredible.
mm,
But if your goal is comfort, if you're striving for comfort every day, your comfort zone is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you're striving for average, well,
yeah.
60% of Americans have a chronic illness, 40% are obese. Average does not get average results. Average gets nothing. So
Yeah.
I think that the massive action mentality is that even if it's impossible for me to do right now, I'm going to attempt it.
Yeah.
And even if I can't get out of bed because I've been bedridden for years from my chronic illness. Tomorrow I'm going to go and do more than I ever did today. And it's compounding. So I like the mentality of 1% better. I'm not shooting to be like, I think the problem when I was struggling with chronic illness is I always expected to be better tomorrow. I wanted to be healthy tomorrow. I wanted to rid myself of pain tomorrow. And we also have to take the mentality of aggressive patience. So shoot to be 1% better every day, but life is like a piñata. You can hit it 100 times and nothing's going to happen. But once you hit it that 101th time, it explodes and you get all of the value. So the compounding effort that you put into your overcoming your illness or having a good relationship or becoming the person you want to be, it's not going to happen overnight. It may not happen for years or a decade, but when it does, it will be incredible. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think I actually heard this on Mads's podcast recently. It was something like I think it was in relation to business, but I think you can kind of relate it to health and your well-being and anything. It was like if you knew that it was going to take 100 no's to get to your next yes, you would just like be plowing through those no's like there's no tomorrow. And even if it was 500 or 1,000, because you know that number, you would just be like, I want to get as many no's as possible. And I think so. Yeah, credit to Mads for giving me that inspiration. But
that's
I
cool.
think you can apply that to your health and well-being as well. Like you said, like that 1% better thing. Like if you knew when you're in that place of not seeing any way out, if you knew, okay, it's going to take months, maybe years, but at this exact date, like you will start feeling better, and then it will just keep going up and up and up. I think that would inspire so many more people to at least be able to see some kind of light. But I think it's
totally.
yeah.
And I think that the world paints such a bad picture. Like I was told that I would never overcome chronic Lyme disease. I needed to fuse my neck. I needed a new hip.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and then I did it all naturally. And they're like, oh, you're an anomaly.
Yeah.
You're an outlier. You're
A
like, that's not
miracle.
supposed to happen. You're a miracle. I'm not a miracle. I kept my head down. I did the work and I was consistent. So I think the message should be to people that are sick is it's not a miracle. It can happen to every single person. It will happen to every single person that puts in the work. And it's going to. So if you continually do it, expect the outcome of success. I should have set my goals astronomically higher, which I do now, but expect success. Continually do something and just in the back of your mind, know it's going to work out. Because I got to that point with my illness about 3 years into treatment, my mindset shifted and I know that's what brought me to the finish line. Whereas before it was always like a voice in the back of my head, like, oh, this can't, you'll always be sick. You'll always have chronic Lyme disease. You'll always have to have, a handicapped job or like a part-time job, or you'd have to take hours off. And then that mindset one day just shifted. It was, I'm getting better. It's consistent. It's actually, it was on a hockey stick type growth. It was exponential. And I felt so good that I started to pass how I felt before I got sick. And and I also think that there's a connotation that we work hard for comfort. And I think that is another thing to break down, another paradigm, because I don't work hard today for an easier tomorrow. I work hard today so that tomorrow can be even harder and I can do it. So I do more treatment now than I ever did when I was sick. I do more health and wellness practices now than I ever did when I was going through Lyme disease. And my life is a reflection of how hard I work. And I know that some people can't work hard because they're sick. Well, then sleep hard, rest hard, do the things you can to get better. Take time off of social media, get in tune with your inner self, grow spiritually, and do all the things that matter, because if you put in the work, you'll get results. If you don't, you won't. There's no quick way to anything. And I think that being sick is the most valuable lesson I could have ever taken in my life. And I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, I love that. I think as well, it's like, I think on a kind of like, if you view it from like a spiritual lens as well, it's like if you can imagine the worst case scenario and your brain is being wired to that, then that means just by default that it's possible to imagine the best case scenario.
I love
and that you can rewire your brain to that. And it is kind of illogical, but it makes sense, because if one is true, then the other simply has to be true. Like
Yeah.
there's no way it couldn't be.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Um,
And we lower our immunity through fear.
mm,
So 100%. And, if you read any books from the 30s, like I said, Think and Grow Rich, they talk about epidemics in New York, and then the whole, the governor coming in and saying there will be no mass media
mm,
about the illness because we don't want
mm,
to scare people and have them get sick. Well, what is the opposite that is happening here in 2022, 2023 is that our government's pushing this fear. So everybody's getting sick, um, if you stop fearing the worst outcome, your body will
mm,
naturally go into a homeostasis and you'll heal.
mm.
I think that exactly right. And coming back to your point of worst outcome is that's naturally where everybody's mind goes.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to end up. Well, guess what? You're setting a target to it. Everything you
Mm.
do, you're thinking about the worst outcome. You're going to
Yeah.
get it.
You're
Yeah.
creating that reality, aren't you? I was literally talking about that with my partner yesterday because we were talking about money,
Yeah.
and we were like, he was like affirming something kind of like negative about his state of his finances, and he didn't even mean it from, he had no negative connotations when
Hmm.
it came to that. And I said to him, I was like, you might not mean that in a negative way, but if you put that out there, you're creating that reality so that it will be that way. Like if you say like, oh, I would like to go away next month, but I don't have any money. Even if you don't mean it in a negative way, it's like, say you were meant to, like, it's the 4th of April now. Say I wanted to go away next month, and there was like a timeline wherein I was meant to go away on the 1st of May. But if I keep telling myself I can't, I won't be able to, then the 1st of May will come and the universe will be like, oh, well, this was your timeline, but you've just gone into another one because you created that. So I'm sorry, you're gonna have to rewire
Yeah.
that. So same goes for
100%.
health and well-being. Yeah.
It's a whole cyclical, holistic environment. How you do one
Yeah,
thing is how you do everything. So
absolutely.
we can't have good health and poor finances. We can't have good relationships and poor health.
Mm,
It's all good or all bad. I think
mhm,
that the amount of effort that we put into ourselves is magnetic. So instead of trying to, if you're struggling in your relationship, instead of trying to fix your relationship, fix yourself. Think about how
mm,
you can make yourself better and grow in a relationship and see how that helps. Or if you're struggling financially, instead of trying to figure out the quick fixes every single month, why not try to figure out how you can grow yourself to become the best asset for your finances? Or the same with your health and wellness, instead of trying to look for the next drug, pill,
yeah,
therapy, how can you grow yourself? And once you start
absolutely.
growing yourself, it goes to all pillars and you become magnetic.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. And in one of the books I'm just reading, it's by Lewis Howes, who's the author of, or he's the host of the School of Greatness podcast. In his new book, it talks about how you don't want to be chasing what your dreams are. You want to be a magnet for them. So you want to
Mm,
become magnetic. And the only way you do that is by working on yourself and becoming the person who is deserving of those things. So if you think
mm,
of someone who has those things, who are they? Are they charismatic? Are they outgoing? What do they do? Do they have a
mm,
podcast? Do they have a newsletter? Do they own a business? Are they employees? So
mm,
if you want to become a magnet, look at the people who have what you want and become like them. I am
mm,
I believe in modeling. I know that some people out there are like, my future self is my goal, but who really knows who their future self is? So I pick people who have real accomplishments, who have real accolades, who
yeah,
have real assets, and I say that's who I want to be, and I
yeah,
pull out their character traits and I instill them in my life.
yeah, yeah. I love that. So I know, well, I gather that you're a very like disciplined person, and that means a lot to you. And I think it would just be, I kind of think that sometimes people think discipline is like a dirty word. Do you know what I mean? Like routine
Yeah,
and
it's like
discipline and things
a,
like that.
a
Um,
negative. Yeah.
yeah, but I think like I kind of try and reframe it for people as like discipline, like what it really means is just being committed to yourself and
Hmm.
to your growth, and to like being what you want to be, and knowing that you can't do that unless you implement some kind of strategy in order to
Hmm.
get there. So
I love that.
I guess well, you've kind of touched on it a bit, but I guess I'd love to know as well, how has, what have you had to be like particularly disciplined about throughout your like healing journey, and how
Hmm.
has that changed, and how does that still play a role in your life now?
Totally. I think I went through a long period of time without goals, and now I'm super disciplined about reviewing my short-term and medium-term goals every single day. I keep a journal. I start my journal at like 4:30 in the morning. I go through all of my goals, and just by doing that one step, it reminds me of every course I need to take. So the purpose of setting goals is, let's say I want to make $1 billion, like a long-term goal. Well, every step I take today needs to lead to that goal, essentially, and we can break that down into shorter term goals, and having a successful company, having 10,000 coaches on my platform, and breaking it even smaller. But if you don't have a long-term goal, what are your actions today leading towards? So if you have a long-term goal, all of your actions today, you can ask yourself, are those leading towards my long-term goal? It may be decades out, it may be 25 years out, but is your action today going to make you that person in the future? So I'm super disciplined about staying the course to the
Mm.
person I want to become and reviewing that daily. So sure, things change, your goals may change. Never lower your goals. Always increase your
Yeah.
action, but make sure that the actions you take today are leading towards the person you want to be. Does the person you want to be sleep in? Me? No, never.
Mm.
I never want to retire. I want to have hundreds of businesses. I want to be, an entrepreneur that impacts the world on a global level. So when I look at my day-to-day actions, it's how can I scale my life in a way that I get noticed, I get people that are magnetized towards me and
Mhm.
grow towards my goals.
Mm.
But then the other thing I stay disciplined to is my um, schedule. I will never miss a day of getting up at 4 a.m. I don't even think about getting in my 39-degree cold plunge in the morning
Mm.
anymore.
Yeah.
And just like my workout schedule, the food I eat in the morning, my 14-hour fast, how I stop eating in the evening, the
Yeah.
time I go to bed, books I read, books I listen to, no music in the car. I have all of these things that I know that my role models do,
Mm.
and I am extremely disciplined about doing them in my own life
Yeah.
because I don't want this life. I want better.
Yeah. That's so cool. And there's literally no reason why all of us shouldn't be striving for better. And of
Hmm.
course, it looks different for everyone, and everyone's discipline is going to look different. But that's what we should all be striving for. Like, why would we not want that? And that reminded me, that was something I was going to say as well. I think we touched on it earlier, but I remember seeing on one of your Instagram stories as well, you were saying how now when you get in the cold plunge, you've almost you notice that inner voice, that inner, not inner critic, but that inner voice that's like,
Yeah,
oh, why are you doing this? I don't want to do this. You've noticed that it's almost already started to fade, or even if it hasn't
totally.
faded, you can't hear it as much anymore because you've literally rewired it. And I think
Yeah,
that's
it's so
so
cool to
cool.
see.
Yeah.
I love that. That's something I thought about this morning was I was in the plunge without effort, and it's
So
hard. It
cool.
is really hard.
It's
I
so
go
cool.
fully under, and it's freezing. It's colder than anything.
Yeah.
And I used to have that voice that says, "You've done enough. Go back to bed," or "Hey, you need to sleep in. You need to take it easy." And
Yeah.
also, when people start commenting on the level of action you're taking, it's not a reflection of the action you're taking. It's a reflection of the inaction they're taking.
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
I consistently get told that I'm going to burn out. I'm going to have all this. I dealt with burnout. I've had it before. I run my life in a manner now where in the evenings, I am so well rested. I have such a good recovery routine that
Mm.
there's no burnout in my life. And
Yeah.
I drain myself every single day. I go 110% so that I can grow. And I think that there's a connotation that we need to save our energy so that we don't burn out. I think that maybe if you stop smoking your vape pen and,
Exactly.
did some wellness practices, you wouldn't have to take
Yeah,
Mondays off. But totally, I think
that's
there's
true.
always ways to grow, and I am dead set on becoming the person I want to be.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's sometimes people have a skewed version of what it's like, telling you that you're gonna burn out, but it's not doing those things is what's gonna make you burn out. Like,
Yeah,
and
totally.
oftentimes people are burnt out and they don't even realize it. Like, if you need to sleep like 12 hours a day, then that's probably a
You're burnt
sign that
out.
you're burnt out.
Yeah,
Even if you think oh no, I'm getting enough rest, but it's like, well, why, when you've had 8 hours of sleep, do you still feel exhausted? That's a sign
totally.
that
Yeah. I love it. I'm
um
coming up on a year of a year sober. So my wife and
Oh,
I,
cool.
May 24th of last year, we decided we weren't going to drink alcohol anymore.
Yeah.
And the contribution to my overall wellness and happiness has been undeniable.
Mm.
I was never, well, sure, we like to have a few drinks on the weekend, relax.
Yeah.
And the only time I was ever drinking was to change my state. And
Yeah.
it wasn't because I was depressed or anything, but I realized that I would pick up a drink to take the edge off. And what is taking the edge
Mm.
off? It's changing your state.
Yeah.
So by not drinking, it's forced myself to get in full control of my state.
Hmm.
So all times, I need to know how I feel, and I choose to feel good. There's
Yeah.
the odd time where something externally will change how I feel, but then I come back to my normal, which is feeling amazing.
Yeah.
And I haven't been sick in forever. I think I
That's so
wrote into my
cool.
story the other day, I had COVID over Christmas, but I had it for like 6 hours,
Yeah.
whereas I gave it to someone very close to me and they had it for 6 weeks. So it's
Yeah.
all about like the overall health and wellness and the sacrifices that you can make in your life to get to where you want to be. I was
Mm.
stuck in a short-term thinking mindset, like, oh, these donuts taste good, I'm going to eat them, and then feeling like crap the next day. Or, oh, this, you know, I don't know, hot shower feels good. I'm not, cold shower stuff.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
short-term thinking is because you don't have long-term goals. If
Yeah.
you knew exactly who you wanted to be 20 years, 10 years from now, short-term thinking wouldn't enter your mind. And that's what's
Yeah.
happened to me. I don't have short-term um, wants, and no more short-term desires.
Mm. That's so cool. Yeah. And I think it's like always coming back to the reason that you want to do something. Like even, you know, I can definitely relate to that because not I've been kind of toying with that idea for a while, like not stopping drinking and things like that. And it's like I rarely drink anyway, but like sometimes same with like how it was for you and your wife, like me and my partner, like on the weekends would like sometimes go out, have a few cocktails and things like that. And even though it's not like it's like every few weeks, every other month or something like that, the weeks when it's not happening and you wake up on the Saturday and a Sunday and you're not hungover, you don't have any even if you like say you don't get hungover, your body is hungover, even if it's not horrendous. It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be like the worst feeling in the world. Like there's no brain fog, there's clarity, there's like you feel like you're getting up with purpose, you don't want to eat crappy food. And I think
Yeah.
I say that to him. I was like, this feeling is just, it's like you feel like elite. You're like, okay, why do I
Yeah.
need to wake up on a Saturday and a Sunday, and why do I just decide, oh, it's Friday, like I must go out for a drink? Like, what's the intention behind it? And I think I'm not saying that everyone has to stop drinking. Like,
Yeah,
do
exactly.
you, but like even just even just experimenting with it, like seeing, okay, I wanted to take the edge off. Why did I want to take the edge off?
Hmm.
And now you don't, that thing that you wanted to, feel relieved from is not there because you're not feeding into that cycle. Um,
Absolutely. And understanding why is so important. Like, it leads back to the long-term mindset. It's who do
mhm,
you want to be? And I think
yeah,
that's so scary for a lot of people. It was so scary for me.
yeah,
Who do I want to be in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? But it's a question you need to ask yourself as soon as you can,
mm,
because that gets closer every second, every hour, every day.
mm,
And if you don't have a plan, you're going to wind up where your actions take you, where your actions aren't on a cycle. They're not planned out. So just like me, the reason I don't drink is because the future person I want to be doesn't have a drink.
yeah,
Um, the reason that I get up early is so that I can have time to do this awesome routine in the morning that makes me feel great
mm,
because I know that I want to stay in that state.
yeah,
Um, I was also chasing that without realizing it, chasing, taking the edge off, which is
mm,
changing the state, isn't
yeah,
getting you into that happy flow state where I choose to live in that now.
mm,
And yeah, there's nothing wrong with, addressing, having a few drinks, but address why. Why do
mm,
you have them?
yeah, definitely.
And if it's to be social, then that's a lie. You can be
Mm,
social completely without drinks. Or
yeah,
if you say anything that's beyond what you know to be true, you need to get down to the truth. So ask yourself why.
mm,
And if you keep coming back to reasons that don't involve the actual drink themselves, it's a lie.
Mm.
So find out why you need alcohol, and then if it's fine for you, keep going.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I guess before we wrap up and get into the like final round of quickfire questions, I just I want to talk a tiny little bit more about HatchPath and the
Cool.
platform that you've built and that you're building, and just I'll just again like I'll give you the floor, like if there's anything that you want to explain about it, you know, how
Sure.
people can join if they're interested, how people will know if it's for them, and like, you know, what the purpose is behind it. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So HatchPath was built out of my own desire to change how I was feeling. And I was lucky enough to stumble into someone that helped me, who was my coach. I then became a coach myself. And I realized just how hard it is to find the right person for you. And it's ironic that when we go through high school, we have teachers, college, university, we have people that help us. But once you're in adulthood,
Mm,
unless you're an elite athlete or a CEO, there's not really anybody with coaches. So coaching is the new nepotism. I truly believe it. Nepotism essentially means that you had parents that succeeded and they taught you how. You don't need successful parents to become successful now. You don't need healthy parents to be healthy now. You just need someone that can help you. And I built HatchPath to have all of those amazing people in one place. We just passed 150 coaches with everything from nutrition coaching to energy healing and
mm,
everything in between. And for a limited time only, we are paying for your first session on the platform. So if you're interested into getting into coaching, come to HatchPath. It's a simple sign up. It's www.hatchpath.io. And basically, you'd fill out our sign up form just like you would on any other platform, and you join. And the way it works is a little bit less intuitive, but we think it's a better practice. Clients post jobs that coaches get to apply to. So if you know what you need help with, you can post this anonymously. So you can select from a list of services and then write a little description, post a job. A ton of coaches will apply, and you can select the right one for you. So it's a new flow, it's a new way of doing things, and we're paying for your first session. And if you're a coach of any kind, you can join us too. You'll apply through the same link, and one of our admin team will approve you and have an onboarding call with you.
that's so cool. Thank you. And I one of the things that I love about it that you just mentioned is that it is so like there's there's such a vast range of people, like of coaches, and thus like clients can kind of come on and almost certainly like find someone or something that suits them,
Mhm.
which is cool. But it also kind of still feels like a community, you know. It doesn't feel like so broad and, you know, disconnected. It feels like vast and like there's a wide range, but it feels like a really communal space. And it feels like it is one of those things, where it's going to be one of those things that's like, oh, you're on HatchPath, okay, cool, yeah, oh,
Yeah,
you're a client on HatchPath, oh, that's so cool, you know. It feels like it I can see like it coming into life like on its own. So it's
totally.
really cool.
And one more thing I want to mention is there's never any subscription fees. So if you want to join just to
Okay,
peruse on either side, we're happy to have you. So
cool.
we will never charge a subscription on the platform. So just sign up and explore.
Cool. So I'm just gonna go into the bit where I section where I'm just gonna pull like an oracle card.
Love it.
So I've just cleansed the deck, so I'm just gonna like close my eyes and just like have my hand wandering above them. So if you just want to tell me when to stop intuitively when you
Sure.
feel called, and I'll stop and pick one. Okay.
Sure. Okay, stop.
Oh, that's cool. So it stopped like right in the middle of two, so I picked the two up. Um, and the first one that came up said is symmetry, and it's saying there's always a third way, which is
Ooh,
really cool. Like seems like what we were talking about, breaking the paradigm and things like that. And the second one is creation. Um, and this one is about becoming a conduit for growth. So I feel like
those are
that's really
great.
cool.
Yeah,
So super quickly, I've just got a couple of quick fire questions to just like, so any answer that intuitively comes up,
sure.
just say that. So the first one is, how do you want to look back on your life in 70 years?
I want to see that I gave all of my effort to all of the pillars of my life and that I gave my family an amazing journey.
Cool. The second one is, what would you want people to know that could enable them to live their fullest expression or their fullest life right now?
You got it. All of the power is in you. Just unleash it.
I love that. What does being present mean to you?
I think it's the only moment we have. I think that everything good happens now. We can't change it in the future. We can't change it in the past. So decide to be here.
And finally, what are three words that would like define your current experience, whether that's right in this moment of life, whatever? What are
Okay.
three words you would choose?
I think the first one is family. We're bringing a new soul into the world, which I think is really great.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Love is the second one. I'm learning that by loving myself and not expecting the same from others, that there is a deeper connection there. I used to put the same amount of expectation on myself as I did others. And I realized that everybody's on their own journey and you need to love them for it. And then the third one's growth. I strive to grow every day, whether that's reading something new, talking to someone like yourself, or just learning. So yeah, those are my three.
That's really wholesome. And sorry, I forgot one more. Are there any like really kind of poignant people, whether that's people in your life, spiritual teachers, whatever, books, quotes, anything that have stuck out to you, like from the start of your kind of healing or spiritual journey and just never left you?
Absolutely. So I think there's two that are very different. I have Joe Dispenza, who got me through I think I've read every single one of his books.
Oh, so cool.
I watch him on
That's a lot.
Gaia. I started with him. He was
Yeah.
he was the reason that I got happy
Oh,
or
so
tried to
cool.
be at least.
Yeah.
And his journey was that he put his spine back together with his mind and did all of this incredible stuff, which was unbelievable. That and then you hear about everybody who's attended a seminar and have cured
Yeah.
blindness, have walked again. So Joe Dispenza. And then on the other side of the spectrum, it's Rob Dyrdek. So here's a guy that everybody knows as the MTV host of Ridiculousness. But if you listen to his podcast, if you dive deeper into his story, you get to see the growth that he's experienced and how he's systemized his life. So the way that I systemize my life, the way that I plan things is done by a very similar system to Rob. And I actually email Lauren every single morning because it's something that Rob did for his wife.
Oh, yeah.
So I send her a love note, I send her my schedule, and this all happens before 5 a.m.
Oh, it's so
And
cool.
I send her some stuff that's important for me to accomplish during the day, but I also always recognize how hard she's working and just remind her how much she means to me. So
That's
those are
really
my two
lovely.
people. Yeah.
That's really lovely. That's such a nice note to end on. Also, is there anything you want to add? Where can people find you? I'll put like links and stuff in the description below, but if you just
Sure.
want to pimp yourself
Yeah.
out.
So yeah, if you're struggling with something that I went through, so like chronic Lyme or traumatic brain injury, feel free to reach out to me directly. If you want a more holistic approach, please sign up for HatchPath. Again, we're paying for your first session. I think it would be tremendous help for myself and for our coaches and for you to join our platform and test it out. We're in what we're calling our beta. That's why this offer is here. In a month or so, this offer will no longer be standing. So if you want to be one of the first people on the platform, come and test it out and we'll pay for your first session.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on the podcast, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, guys.